Did you know that in 2016 the NCAA made a deal with CBS worth $11 billion dollars just to air the NCAA March Madness basketball games? That's a ton of money. That tournament is 3 weeks long, and they paid $11 billion dollars. They made a deal for $11 billion dollars, and the athletes that played in the games didn't see one dime of that. So I'm here today to talk about why I think college athletes should be paid. The time is now. It's been a long time coming, and with the amount of money that's being thrown around within the NCAA now, I think that it's a very valid argument to make that college athletes should be paid. So like I said, the NCAA brings in $11 billion, so they're able to pay college athletes if they want to. Today we'll be talking about the NCAA itself and how much money it has, why we're not paying college athletes right now, why there's people that say there's no way we can pay college athletes. It can't happen. We can't do it. It's impossible. And we're going to talk about scholarships, people that say, they do pay college athletes, not straightforward, but they pay them through the form of a scholarship, but we're going to talk more about that. And we're going to talk about the life of an athlete and what a player goes through each week, and also why it is a good idea now to pay college athletes. So Listland writer Dave Anderson had an article talking about that the athletes themselves are the only people that are restricted financially through that $11 billion contract. The coaches get paid, the training staff gets paid, everybody gets paid, except for the people that are actually doing the work, and that is the athletes. So the money, the scholarships that the players get, the money, that pays for books, that pays for room and board, that pays for a meal plan, but they have to have clothes on their back, and once the dining hall's closed, they have no money to get food, so they can work if they want, but they've already got a long work week. Like I said, we'll talk about that later, but if you think about it, what is a scholarship? It's the school paying themselves to bring a player to play for them. So if they pay the player itself, they're not losing any money. People say the school will go broke if they play. No, they're not going to go broke. They need to start paying the college athletes. That's like me, if I was paying myself rent for my house, and I had kids and they said, hey, can we go eat? And I said, no, we can't go eat today because I had to pay myself rent. It's basically the same concept. So we're going to talk about now why aren't we paying the college athletes, and why it's not fair that the college athletes aren't being paid. So Jay Billis, an ESPN columnist, asked a good question. What's next? If we say now we're going to pay college athletes, what's going to be the next question? And he said, are we going to have the question of should we pay high school athletes to play? The answer to that is no, because high school athletics don't bring in multi-billion-dollar contracts to air their games on ESPN and CBS and all these different, TV stations. So, that's just really not a valid argument to me. The college athletics, like I said, is bringing in so much money, and these players are putting in long weeks, and they need to be paid. A lot more people say it's going to ruin the game, but back when the NBA players weren't allowed to play in the Olympics, everyone was like, we should not allow that because that would just ruin the NBA. They would just, they'd want to go play in the Olympics instead. And as we see now, the NBA players, they go over and they play in the Olympics and they go right back to their teams and they do a solid for their country and then go right back. So, it's not going to ruin the game. In my perspective, I think it would actually make the game better. So, my credibility here, I played college football for 2 years at Ottawa University, and just a little bit, a look into my day. I woke up and we went and we lifted and we did a little bit of running. And then we'd go, we'd eat breakfast real quick, probably normally on the run, go straight to classes, go to class all day until we have to go to practice at 3. And then we would go to practice, and we would go straight from practice to a mandatory study hall. After the study hall, we'd normally, go eat dinner, and then we'd go straight home, study for a test or something, and then go to bed and start the process all over again. Sometimes it's even, 3 practices in a day, so it's crazy. And people say other sports will be affected by this, and I mean, really, they wouldn't. Yes, most of the money comes in from basketball and football players, which, one way of paying college athletes, yes, it probably more money would go to the basketball and football team because, they bring in, like I said, millions and some billions of dollars. So, just the time is now. It really is. So for the satisfaction, Michael Wilbon came out and reported, he said he was the biggest hater of paying college athletes. He said it would never work, and he didn't want it to happen. That was 4 years ago, and then he came out with another article and reported that you have to let the players earn what they can. Let them sell their jerseys. If you get a big name, for example, you get a Josh Jackson, a one-and-done Kansas basketball player, he's going to be making a lot of money next year. That's not always the case for all, student athletes. So if he can go out on, in the streets and sell his jersey for $100, $1,000, why not let him do it? He's a great player and people will pay him for that. So why not just let him take that money? Another factor in this is that all the big players, all the big-time high school recruits would go to the big schools. I don't think that's really a valid argument either, because most of the big-name players, 95% of them go to the big schools anyways. You get 1 or 2 that'll go to Wichita State or somewhere like that, but most of the big names go to, the Kansas, the Duke, the Kentucky for basketball, and, the Oregon, Alabama for football. So there's no real valid argument here. So Tyson Harnett of the Huntington Post said that the athletes are actually being used, which, I think that's another valid argument. They come in. He also reported they have a 43.3-hour work week on average, which is just crazy. That's most of us, a 40-hour work week is a full load, and they're doing 43.3 hours just in their sport alone. So right now, if they want to make any extra money, they have to work on top of that. And, it's nearly impossible. So I really do think that athletes should be paid. So for the visualization, like I just said, the players work a 43.3-hour work week. And the good thing about paying the college athletes is that the players will actually stay in school for the whole 4 years. So they can get a degree, they can go to school, they don't have to rush off to the pros to get paid, and they can, be able to be financially stable throughout the years that they are in college. So the call to action. Back in 1906, President Roosevelt actually helped develop the NCAA. They weren't paying the college athletes, of course, back then. But did he know that the college and the NCAA would start bringing in, millions, billions of dollars? No, he probably never dreamt of that. So, the time is changing, and all this money being brought in is just time is now to pay them. It's a new system, and the system that's people are saying it's not hard. It's not hard to. It's going to be really hard to pay the college athletes. It's not hard. They took 2 or 3 days to come up with that $11 billion plan or deal to work out between the NCAA and CBS. I read that it took 3 days on Forbes.com. And so if they can do 3 days, I think they could take a week or 2 to come up with a good plan to actually pay the college athletes and it be an effective way. So in conclusion, I've talked about how the NCAA is a multi-billion-dollar industry. I talked about why people say now that the college athletes shouldn't be paid, and had pretty valid arguments on why they should. I talked about a player's work week and how many hours they put in the gym, on the field, and that's just without working on top of that. And so I talked about why college athletes should be paid, and cited my 4 sources. And thank you for listening.